Hi everyone, in this video I'm gonna be narrating again creepy, scary stories from my family members, so I guess it's like a part 2. Number 1. So these first couple of stories are from my uncle. When my uncle just started working after he finished his university, sometimes he would take a bus from his smaller town to a city to go to a theater or a cinema. The bus that he would come back with would go late at night around 12 a.m. And the bus stop that he had to get off on was not in his town but on a highway, and my uncle would still need to walk 5 kilometers through the forest to get to his town. One time when he came back from the city, with him got off one more guy. The guy was walking at the same direction as my uncle. As they were walking, this guy at times would try to get closer to my uncle. At that time, he didn't have anything valuable on him, only his briefcase that had some books in it. My uncle noticed him and began to think that maybe this guy doesn't have the best intentions and might try to do something, so he became alert. When the guy would get close to my uncle, he would turn around to look at him and the guy would back off. As they were walking, this happened a couple of times. After a few kilometers, they came across a house. Then my uncle remembered what locals from his town said to him about that house. They said that bad people were living there, that they would attack people that walked this road late at night and around this area. When my uncle got closer to the house, the guy behind him, about 100 meters away, started whistling strange melodies very loudly. Then the dog started barking in the house and the windows began to light up. My uncle realized that the guy behind him was probably giving a signal to whoever was inside the house to come out and attack him. My uncle didn't stick around to find out if that was true or not and just started running as fast as he could. There was only 1 kilometer left before he reached the town, so he was not taking any chances. As my uncle was running away, he could still hear that the guy whistling loudly behind him. When my uncle finally reached the town, he met 2 more guys and they asked him, "Hey, why are you running so fast late at night?" My uncle, without explaining anything, catching his breath, just said, "There's a good reason to why I'm running," and quickly went back to his house. When he got into his house, he didn't turn on any lights and just looked through his window. He saw a car drive through a street at high speed from the direction that he came. After that, my uncle avoided walking alone late at night for quite a while. Number 2. When my uncle was still studying in the university, at his city bus station, there was this gambling machine that you would throw 20 kopecks in, and there was a roulette wheel inside it that was spinning and had 7 holes in it, and if your 20 kopecks would land in one of the holes, you would win. For those who don't know, kopecks are Russian money, and just for some clarity, we're not Russians. At that time my country was part of Soviet Russia, so they had to use their money. My uncle would often go to there because his dorms were nearby, and sometimes he would stop to look at how other people were gambling. That bus station was not a very safe area though. There were a lot of, let's say, not really good people lurking around there. And one time, when my uncle decided to watch how other people were gambling, a few guys came up to him. They started to ask my uncle questions about him, like, "What's your name? Where do you live? And what do you do here?" and stuff like that. Then they would try to make these accidental bumps into my uncle. My uncle is not stupid and quickly realized what they were trying to do. They were checking him out. They were trying to see in which pocket was he holding his wallet or anything else of value. My uncle knew that this was not going to end well for him if he was going to stick around, so he started walking towards his dorm, but so did those guys. They were so close to my uncle that it looked like as if they were not following him but rather walking with him like my uncle was part of their group. The good thing is that those guys didn't knew where my uncle was actually going, so when they came up to my uncle's dorm, my uncle made such a quick turn and walked into his dorm that those guys didn't even realize what happened and just continued on walking. After that, my uncle would see them lurking around his dorm and the bus station and would catch their looks at him. One time, he saw those same guys beating up some other guy at a nearby parking lot. My uncle didn't know what to do and was just standing there watching them. After a bit, they all just suddenly stopped and just gave a guy a bottle and said, "Here, drink." My uncle thought that they were just probably beating up one of their own because he probably messed up or something, and they were just teaching him a lesson. They noticed my uncle and just said to him, "Just keep walking." Though nothing bad ever happened to my uncle, after that he would still see those guys from time to time. He said to me that as long as he lived there, almost every night he could hear a woman scream because she was being robbed or something worse was happening, and that every morning his friend would find empty wallets lying on the ground behind the dorm's corridor stairs. His advice to everyone would be, try not to space out or look like you're an airhead in public, because that what could make you a potential target. Number 3. So this third story is from my best friend. I know that I said that these stories are gonna be from my family members, but he is the first friend that I ever had, and we've been friends for over 16 years since I was 4 and he was 3. So I do consider him as my brother by now. I won't use his real name, so I'll just call him John. It happened about 6 years back when I was 14 and John was 13. But first, I'll give you a bit of a background. John lives in the same village as my grandma. While my grandma was still alive, I would spend all of my weekends and holidays there. While I was there, I would spend almost all of my time hanging out with John, and we would spend most of our time together outside. We would go exploring into the forest, ride our bikes, we would go swimming into the river that was nearby, or just simply go for a walk. One evening we went for a walk, and like usual we would just talk about stuff that was important to us at that time. At the end of our walk, John seemed distracted to me by something, but I didn't say anything to him. Like always, we would say our goodbyes to each other, and then I would go back to my grandma's place and John would go back to his. Now this is where John's side of the story begins. It was already quite dark outside and he still had to walk a bit. When he told me this story, he said that before we went our separate ways, he already had this weird feeling like someone was watching him. And now that he was alone, he said that the feeling got even heavier. John then began to walk a bit faster, and then suddenly he hears a deep, scary voice of a man that sounded like it was coming from right behind him say,
"Hey kid, where are you going?"
John then quickly looked around him but didn't saw anything. And without a second thought, with all his strength, he just started running back to his house. When he got back to his home, he gave one quick look behind him but didn't see anything. When he told this to his family, no one really believed him and said that he was just fantasizing too much while playing with me. When he told this to me, I did believe him. After all, he's my best friend and there was no reason for him to lie to me. And he told me that when he heard that voice, it felt like his soul and all of his strength was leaving his body. Hey again guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, cause there surely is more to come. I really enjoyed making this kind of videos. The editing is a really fun part for me, and I hope you have a nice day.